Well, let's dive right in here. Today here in this session, we've started this last couple of years and we wanted to get everyone on the same page, kind of introduce ourselves, who we are, what CSA is, when should you contact one of us, how do you contact us, and just kind of go over, the firmware loading stuff, check out the RoboReal, the imaging tools and stuff like that helps prepare you guys for the regional. Because it saves a little wear and tear on me and Chris as we walk around and a couple other CSAs and the FTAs when they're up there when things don't match for the field play. So, I think I took out some of the radio configuration stuff, but it might be in there. Driver station stuff, radio configuration, and some tips and good practice stuff we'll be covering. So, who are we? I am Todd Kruze. I am the lead mentor for 7068 currently and been part of 3840 of the last 5 years previous. I did a robot inspecting a couple of years, and now me and Chris kind of co-lead a bunch of us. There's 4 active, full-time, kind of all-in CSAs in the state, and we're a control system advisors. So we're the troubleshooters in the pit.
Yeah. As he said, my name is Chris Roadfeldt. Actually, this is my 5th year of FIRST. I'm also doing some robot inspecting here and there wherever they need me. And Todd covered what we do already.
So here again, we are the first control system advisors. It's a volunteer position we hold, a key volunteer role within FIRST here at the regional events. We assist teams with robot control related issues, and we work hand in hand with the robot inspectors, the lead robot inspectors, and the FTAs on the run the fields. And so if you experience any issues on the field, they're the ones that would contacting us up there, the FTAs and FATAs, to be contacting us to follow you down to the pit or contact us to follow up with you in the pit. So you want to explain the classic and that here's the model that you've been kind of working on?
Yeah. So the description he just read, that is FIRST description for what a CSA is. And that's what I'm calling CSA Classic. That's what most CSAs do. So if you go to a regional outside of Minnesota or on the upper Midwest now, most CSAs are going to help you at a regional event. In Minnesota, we have decided to try and be a little bit more proactive. So we're going to help you not only at the regionals, but we'll help you off the regionals during the build season, off build season, pretty much year-round help. And it's not just that we're going to troubleshoot stuff for you, but if we can, we'll try and help you guys do stuff that you would like to do you haven't been able to before. So if you get to a regional and you said, okay, well, we want to be able to do some path planning. Okay. Well, if we've got enough resources that can come and help you guys out and do path planning at a regional, and you guys are willing to give it a shot, we'll try and help you out with it. Okay. So it's not just we're going to help troubleshoot you. That is our primary focus is to make sure you're on the field and competing. Okay, that is our number 1 priority. Number 2 priority though is going to be teaching. Okay, think of us as mentors for every single team. Okay, we are here. We're a volunteer worker, and I don't know about you, Todd, but one of the things that I really like doing, and I'm guessing Todd does too, and all the CSAs, we like teaching. Okay, we like being able to see you guys do something that you couldn't do before. So if you've got a question, no matter what it is, if you see one of us in an orange hat, mine's in the car, I forgot it, go ahead and ask us. Okay? Even if it's not a troubleshooting question, even if it's just something you want to do, you haven't been able to do. If you've got a question, let us know.
Absolutely. We all enjoy it, and that's why we do it, because we want to see every team be successful on the fields and as well as preparing for the season as well, because sometimes you get into the season and you have questions, you can reach out, and the information's on the handout we did as well. We're always monitoring that year long, and one of us usually jumps on and helps out. So Chris has covered most of this on here related stuff, the orange hat and off non-season events. So there's the contact information. It's on the handout as well on there. So that's kind of a little bit about us and what our role is on here. We do support the software development and on all 3 languages. Chris does a lot in the networking in the C++, can help with a little Java. I do a lot of Java on there. We do the camera configuration stuff. And then we have another CSA that's really efficient with LabVIEW. That's a great help for me and Chris. So, imaging your RoboReal. And so You're getting a little sneak preview because I have the kind of the beta stuff in here. On top of that, all four or five of us, CSAs in the state, have been beta testing for the 2019 software coming out and everything. So some of the screens in that will be shown as the new stuff. So has anyone here imaged a RoboReal before? A few of you. So this is like step one when you start setting up your thing after you get it wired here.
How many people here think it takes way too long? Thank you.
I think it's a little bit better. It's been about 2-3 minutes this year on what I've done. So if your team does not have a USB A to B connected cable, please invest in one. We CSAs always carry one with us.
Just a little tip, if you've got a Goodwill next to you, go there. Okay, they usually have a stockpile of USB A and B cables, and they're usually like $2 a shot. Buy them all.
Yep. We tend to lose ours during the regional events. Somehow we loan it to a team and forget which one it was, and they get a free cable. I have a stockpile at work, so it doesn't bother me to go grab another one off the shelf.
Are they not using the checkout list that I made for this?
Probably not. So here it is. If anyone was part of it last year, and those that haven't done this, last year was the first time it showed up on the actual desktop when you install it. So when you install the new package coming out on January 5th, this RoboReal imaging tool icon will be on your desktop. And then when you can click on it, it will open up. So on here, after launching it, it's going to automatically try and connect through the 172.2211.2, Andrew, on your thing, so you don't have to write it on your arm.
Yeah, I remember.
But that is the IP address. So if you're not aware of it, the USB cable, when you plug it into your laptop, it's actually making IP address in there, sticking the USB and creating an adapter in Windows for that.
Does anybody ever here know why you have to image your RoboReal, or when you should?
When everything breaks.
When everything breaks, yeah.
When there's a new update available?
When there's a new update available, yeah. Yes. And there will be, there's been 2 already in the beta?
Yeah, there's supposed to be 3, but we haven't seen it and it's getting awful late.
So the RoboReal image, I don't know if you guys know this, but the RoboReal is a computer. Okay, it runs a Linux distribution on there. And when you're imaging the RoboReal, what you're doing is you're reformatting the internal storage on that RoboReal and giving it a new operating system. So they do make a lot of bug fixes. I know one year they had a DHCP issue with it, so it wouldn't come up properly, and that didn't cause any problems for us. So if the new RoboReal image comes out, my advice is take a look at what it fixes. If you are encountering that problem, go ahead and update. Otherwise, give it a week, okay? Because you never know. They might find a new bug. So.
We've had 2 so far on here. So with this, and what's going to be critical, again, this is in our full beta presentation next hour after lunch. New this year, if you have the wrong image on your RoboReal, you will not be able to deploy code. So they released beta 2 and I did, so everyone updated. And we all started trying to deploy code and it gave us a mismatch. And I found it on their GitHub site and they was like, well, you guys are hard coding it. And I got right away. We did that by design. I'm like, well, I understand that and I love it because it saves headache on us. So if you can't deploy code this year coming up, it's because you got the wrong image. So right now we're on image 7, and if I had WPI libraries with the Gradle for beta 1, it wouldn't let me do it because it'll give you a mismatch of it. So it's going to do a check. It doesn't care about the firmware, but it cares about the image on the RoboReal. So this is real critical. You guys understand that, and that's kind of the reason why we're kind of throwing everything out there. Make sure you guys start getting inside of that. New this year also on the imaging tool is where you'll be able to update your firmware for your RoboReal. Now, I asked a question on the discussion boards, and they said basically there's no real reason to go from 3 to 6, which will come out on your install. But I went to 6 and I haven't seen any issues with it. But you'll have to have a minimum of 3, and I believe that will be what their official stance for the inspection will be this year. We'll see if they change their minds on that or not. But keep in mind on that. So on the RoboReal on here, Here's the imaging tool here. It shows your target right there. You'll click on the format target. It'll automatically go to the right directory. If you install everything correctly and didn't move anything, we'll find the current image. So the recommendation is you're going to pick the latest one. And how many of you guys are plugged in with your lead mentors 1 and 2 that are registered on first? Because just about every weekly, they will have team updates. You guys familiar with team updates? They come out to all your leaders every week, usually once a week. The what? Say again? They'll be in both. Sometimes they'll have, depends on what's on there, but it usually comes right from first on there when the team, if not, follow Twitter. They'll show up on Twitter. And they will sometimes have updates for software. And so we want to make sure you guys are staying in tune with that so you get the result. Hopefully not. So you would format, you click that on number 4 there, and you hit reformat, and you'll let it buck. 2 to 3 minutes.
That's much faster.
So here's what I do. You'll see a formatting down there with their red little rectangle around there. It will come through and it should say complete when it's done. Now I'm using a VirtualBox, so mine was kicking out, so I had to make sure I keep reconnecting it. So ensure you keep the power on and don't disturb Windows and mess with your USB cable connected to Windows.
Yeah, it can be recovered, but it's a pain in the butt. One thing I want to point out, the team number right here, if you are at a competition and your RoboReal goes down, another team borrows yours, you have to go through and reformat it, okay? Because your code, your robot, the IP address that it's going to assign itself, or the network it's going to look for, and the code and all that good stuff, the driver station fires up, is all based on that team number, okay? So if you get a loaner RoboReal, make sure you reformat it, and then deploy your code, and then deploy the CTRE lifeboat to it.
Yes, coming up. So when you get a rare case, you'll get this little error. This is the most common pop-up error that comes with the failed to image thing on there. Sometimes you'll have to boot it up and put it in safe mode by holding the reset button down as it's booting up. And that happened to me this year in beta, and I actually was able to recover it. Firewall configuration stuff. Here's Brandon. If you guys do LabVIEW, that will be the guy you talk to. Bypass me and Chris.
Yes, please.
Because we're going to just push it off on Brandon anyway.
Yeah.
So just make sure the firewall is off on there. Make sure RoboReal firmware is up to date. And again, I don't think they're, so far from first, they're saying there's no need to go past 3. But I was trying to find the README file on that.
Does anybody know what the firewall, where that is applicable? Okay, when we're talking about the firewall, we're talking about on your driver station and your programming laptop. Please use different ones if you can. And please make sure you have a backup driver station ready to go. The FTAs, I think, would really appreciate that, right? Okay. On your driver station, make sure you shut the firewall off. Shut it off for all the devices, shut off Bluetooth, shut off Wi-Fi. The only thing that should be active is the Ethernet, and that's it. Everything else should be clear and free to go.
So again, the new change for 2019, you know, this isn't the beta one, I'll just let you know that the update firmware is added to the imaging tool this year. And once you click on that, it will go to the right directory on your PC and find where the configuration files for the firmware. So there's just some quick things on here. Again, this is more in the beta, but it's the web-based interface is no longer, there's no serverless IL, that's been the thing. It doesn't work on IE or the Microsoft Edge. A lot of teams don't have anything on there. Firefox works fine, so that'll be something to keep in mind. But there's really no need to go there this year. But that's what it currently looks like on there.
Does anybody know what he's talking about on the web interface? Anybody not know what that is? Okay, so for 2018, that's what he's referring to, the changes between 2018 and 2019. Your RoboReal has a web server built into it, and for 2018, if you wanted to go in and reconfigure the network on it, if you wanted to set a static IP, if you wanted to look at the firmware of some of the connected devices to it, you would pull up Internet Explorer and then go to an IP address, either the 172 address, which is the USB, or your 10.team number dot whatever, or the FRC local, which you had up previously. But that web interface would give you the ability to talk to the RoboReal directly. You could reconfigure it, set a static IP, like I said, update firmware. All of that has changed, and that web interface was really buggy. Well, not buggy, it was a pain in the butt because you had to use Internet Explorer and Silverlight, which are two things that have been dead for a while. And so now this year, we'll see the changes here in a second, but that web interface is gone, primarily.
So you guys getting a sneak peek of the 2019 change here. Again, that's not the primary focus, but to give you insight, so there's no sense teaching you the old way when this is going to be changed for 2019. There used to be, anyone heard of the Phoenix Lifeboat? Okay, that is gone. It was kind of installed, but I think the last version of the installer didn't have it included on the desktop. But the Phoenix Diagnostic is what's going to be the new tool here. And this is where you'll go and connect to it, same method through the USB A to B, and this is where you'll install your Phoenix libraries. Everything will be pushed down the RoboReal after you image it. So if you re-image it, don't forget to go to this, because you won't be able to read any of your CAN devices, okay? Warning, no CAN devices will show up if you don't go back and reinstall this. Now, I'm not sure about this button here. They had only for 2019 FRC beta. I'm not sure what they're going to do with that. But that does the animation stuff, so they kind of left it on there. Maybe it'll be gone at the kickoff. But you'll connect to the RoboReal and install this. Because if you go to the next, we'll go to this screen. Because if you go to the next tab, which is CAN devices, you won't see nothing there if you don't install them binary files on their libraries ahead of time.
Who's familiar with drivers? Yeah? What he's talking about is installing the drivers for your CAN devices on the RoboReal. That's what he's talking about.
That doesn't do that on the image.
Nope.
The image does not, the RoboReal image doesn't have any drivers for your CAN devices. So if you are using CAN devices, you've got to install, well, at least CTRE CAN devices.
Correct. It's only the National Instrument stuff and WPI stuff that's on there, only. So CTR, last year was the big change. They separated it to a third-party stuff, and they're saying, okay, CTRE, you handle that.
Yeah.
It's your product. We don't want to be interfacing, so it's all separate libraries and configuration for it. And then they have this portal here to be able to communicate and put everything down RoboReal. Because they actually run a server in there, because that was one of the issues. You had to stop and start it again. It's all on there. Your CAN devices are all on there. And what,
Will they still appear on the web dashboard?
nope. There will be nothing on there.
Can you still, so can you flashlight IDs from, can you do all this stuff that you?
He's going to pull up the interface here. So.
Yep,
If I-
everything, the self-test, flash
pull it over.
LEDs, clear sticky faults, it will all be the diagnostics tool.
I'm trying to get my laptop right here.
As you go.
What are you trying to do?
Some way I got this. I can't get it back to here now. Oh, you got it. Now slide to the right. There we go. Okay, so what I did for the beta testing, I set myself up a VirtualBox, a Windows 10 VirtualBox, so I can play with all the new controls without disturbing my stuff that I use for every day. So in here, this is where you can see all the devices show up. So like the web interface, if you've seen it before, these will all show up in here, and you can go here and just do your blink test, right? And it'll be, you can see one of the talents, kind of hard to see, it's on the tabletop there. So when you first power your talons up, you don't know which one is which unless you pull fuses, because they all be set to 0 when you first come up. This is where you can go and click on them, and you see all the firmware versions are set up, all the CAN IDs are all set up right here. It tells you the hardware version of it and the boot revision on here. But this most critical is the firmware version. This is the latest, the 310 as of today. And then you can name them in here as well when you click on here. You can put a name right here, hit the click change on here. Here's where your firmware will be on here. You press this little button here, and all your firmware, it should go right to the directory. Again, if you keep the install correct when you install your one-click installer this year, and you don't disturb them locations, folders on your hard drive, everything's already linked right to that folder that it's stored at.
Do you have a question?
Yeah, so if you get a batch of new devices, they're all default to 0.
Correct.
Plug one in at a time.
Nope, you can plug them all in.
You can do either one.
Yep.
So you can plug them all in there. You only find one, but you don't know which one it is.
So that's when you do the blink.
That's where you do the blink feature right here. And if you want, you can come over there. If you do it, you'll see it blink really fast.
Okay. So then you would say, okay, you need number 3.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then once I see it, which right now is this one right here on the board, then I know that, hey, that's the right motor 1 on the drivetrain. Then I can put that in there, right motor 1, and then I can put, hey, that's can number 3, and then change it.
Just a word of advice, never leave your CAN devices at the default address.
Never have it at 0.
No.
So the stuff, if you've seen this before, is right here. You can do a self-test and everything. Everything shows up in here like it would on the old style web-based interface. You can actually do your motor stuff in here too, your coast and brake right here, your hardware switches in here. All the configuration you had before, it's all just built into the one interface. And then I don't have to log in. I had one student one year thought he was cute and changed the password RoboReal. No one knew what it was. I had to call NI and get this nice little 128 flash drive, push it in and hold the reset button and restore it back to factory defaults. Only way to do it is through the flash drive.
Another thing I like is that this should be up. This is updated by the manufacturer, 1,000 devices, so they should be in sync all the time as new features come out.
Yep. So I just wanted to show you that this way. So that's what these screens here is telling us on there to do the firmware. That's the other one was the robot configuration firmware. It's still in that instrument, the N9 National Instruments shared folder there, but you shouldn't have to go look for it. That's more in the firmware. Make sure you do all your devices, but the pneumatic controller and the PDB has not changed in the last 2 years. It's 165 for the PCM and it's 140 for the PDM-D. A little bit on the radio configuration. You want to talk about that, or
No, sure, whatever. I'm not sure what you got up here, so.
It's just showing how they configure the radio. So when you get your new radio, or use the old one.
So how many people have had to flash their radios? How many more people? You guys have more than one radio, by the way? Yes. Okay, please. Yeah. Couple things. So you guys are probably familiar with this from utility. It's finicky, to say the least. My best advice when you're doing this, disable all of your other Ethernet adapters. If you've got a USB one, disable any onboard ones, and vice versa. Because sometimes this utility you can't figure out which one you're actually using.
Bluetooth and Wi-Fi too.
Yeah,
Yes.
shut them all down.
Because they'll all show up in the drop
Go ahead
down.
and go to the next one. All right. Please turn on the firewall when you flash it, even if you're doing it for testing, whatever. There is a firewall and a bandwidth limiter on the competition radios. So if you want to mimic the behavior you would have at a competition, please turn that on. Okay? Because you don't want to do all of your testing during the season or during your build season. And then come to find out you go to a competition and all of a sudden my web cameras don't work or my API that I built on the web server doesn't work or whatever, right? So turn that firewall and that bandwidth limiter on when you're doing it, when you're testing during the season as well. Team number obviously goes in there. WPA key, not essential. That's really more for practice field or competition, but you're not going to use this as competition anyways. The radio, the only one allowed right now is the open mesh one. The D-Link is dead. I really like the D-Link, to be honest with you. It'd be nice to bring it back. We'll see. The mode doesn't really matter all that much. That's pretty self-explanatory. Load firmware and then configure. So there's two differences. Load firmware actually flashes a new firmware to the radio. Configure just reconfigures the firmware that's already on there. So if you want to go quick, go configure. But if you want to flash it back to factory defaults and get a fresh, clean image, then go ahead and do the load firmware. So,
So the point here is When you get to the regionals, first thing you got to do is reconfigure your radio for the competition field. And then don't forget, when you get back to your schools and the place that you hold your robotic meetings at, you won't be able to connect to your radio unless you reconfigure it back, okay? It only works for the field management system at the regionals.
Yep. This is only for competition use.
Yep. It's similar at the kiosks at the regionals, but we want to make you aware of it. And make sure you wait for the lights and all that to come up when you do this.
Oh, yeah. Let's talk about that quickly, because it gets to be a kind of a pain in the butt, too. When you configure the radio, that's all you're doing. When you go to a competition, that's what you're going to do to begin with. At the kiosk, you're going to configure. You're going to plug the radio in first, okay? Because it takes about 45 seconds for that radio to boot. So plug the power in first. Oh, there we go. Plug the radio power in first. Get it booting, okay? And then the power light is going to come on. It's going to go solid. Well, it's going to flash, go solid. Then it's going to turn off. Then it's going to flash and go solid a second time, and then your Ethernet device is going to come up. At that point, then you can go ahead and configure, okay? If you hit configure beforehand at the regional event, it's going to say, hey, I can't talk to it. It's going to assume that the firmware is bad, and it's going to force you to try and reformat the firmware, and then you're talking about a 2 to 3 minute cycle, and you're going to have 60 teams behind you. So if you figure that out, everyone takes 5 minutes to do it. Well, that's, what, 4 hours, 3 hours? Yeah. It's a long time. There you go. Yeah, well, I can't do math. So, when you do load firmware, that's a little bit different. You are going to put the mouse over the load firmware button. You're going to configure, you're going to connect the Ethernet first, okay? Then you're going to plug the radio in, and you're going to hit that load firmware button right away, okay? Because that load firmware, you get about 4 seconds when the radio boots up that it's going to say, hey, I'll accept firmware right now. And that happens right on boot up. So load firmware is right away. That's Ethernet first, power second. Configure is power first. Wait for the second solid blue light, okay? It's the far left light. It'll go flash, solid, out, flash, solid. It's that second time it goes solid. Go ahead and hit the configure button. What's that? Yeah, there you go. Yes. Yep.
Usually one of us will be there.
Yeah.
Making sure everything's kind of going smooth. But
At a regional, do not flash a second radio unless you're asked to do so, okay? Because the problem is that if you flash a second radio, well, you can, but here's the thing. If you flash another radio and you power that radio up during a competition and your robot is on the field will see that new radio, and it might think that that's your robot now and reconfigure it and try to talk to that radio. Your robot on the field will be dead at that point. So if you're going to do a second radio as a standby, make sure it's nowhere. Make sure you put a big, police line across it. Make sure everyone knows, do not plug this in. Okay?
This talks about the radio configuration of the lights. So if you're curious what all the lights mean, this is what it is on power up, the blue light.
Yeah. This is the one I'm talking about right here, that first one. This is the one that'll go off, flash, solid, off, flash, solid. That second time it goes solid. Hit the configure button.
That's what that one's doing right now. Okay, a little bit on the driver station stuff on here. Again, this is a screenshot of beta 1. Beta 2, and I know what that is now. It's got renew the DHCP for the FTAs instead of going in there and I assume doing the commands and the DOS prompt. It's not on this one, but there's a little button next to communication that says renew the DHCP. So they added it to the driver station.
What they need to do is automatically shut off the firewall.
Correct. We can do that. So the driver station looks about the same as was before on here, and this just shows you all the statuses in there on if your domain's on, all your firewall settings on there. Your settings for your Shuffleboard, which is broken now. They should have resolved by kickoff, we hope. We haven't seen anything chatter on there, but it doesn't work right now. This is the big part of it right here that we want to make sure you're aware of. And Chris loves this too. This is a CSA's kind of, this is our go-to. If you get sluggish, having burnouts, whatnot. In the field here, the driver station log. Has anyone seen the driver station log before, even know it exists?
Log the file every time.
Yeah,
Yep.
every time the robot powers up.
There's a lot of information here. It tells us the match you're on and everything else. We can go back. We'll let Chris.
Sure. Let's go back one more. Just go back one. Okay, this is the firewall. Want to make sure we point that out again. Please shut it off. Please shut it off. Am I clear?
All of them. Oh. Windows has got 3 firewalls.
Yep.
So depending on whether you're plugged into a public network or a private network or a domain, so a lot of people with laptops in their schools are on the domain network, and that's what they get when you come to the field.
Yeah.
That's going to be a public network. So the best is to shut them all off.
So anybody who doesn't know who that is, you'll see him at competitions. That's Dave. He's an FTA. He runs the field. Okay, so we go to him if we need help. So.
Have you ever seen him at a competition? Maybe he's angry at you?
Yeah, go ahead. Let's go to the next one. Okay, so quickly, this is the driver station log viewer. Okay, on the left here is the message console. Who's on the drive team? Who's on the programming team in here? Everyone? Okay. Learn to use these two, please. Okay. The message console on the driver station actually is on the right-hand side when the driver stations come up right away. There is a small version of the message console. By default, it doesn't show a lot of detail. But at the top of it, there is a little pull-down menu, and you can say, hey, give me all the information. Okay. When you're driving, it's probably not necessary to do that. Okay. All of that information, though, is stored in the log viewer. So if you go up to the, do you have a live driver station by chance? It does. Well, we can show it later.
There's like a little gear right above
Yep.
the
So-
small console that you
Yep, on the right-hand side, yep, she's right. On the right-hand side of the driver station software is a little gear. You click on that, this interface comes up, okay? This interface is all of the stored information for every time your robot has powered up and the driver station has talked to it, okay? What's that?
That's trying to run the jar program.
Oh, okay.
Doesn't work right now.
Okay. So what you're going to see over here on the left-hand side is every time your robot is powered up, it's going to store all the activity and all the messages that the robot has. Oh, my apologies. That's poor timing. So you can see here, this is the number of seconds it's up and running. So this one ran for 2,000 seconds. That's a long time. Yeah, no kidding. All right, and then so what you're going to see is that in addition to this, when you're at a regional, you're going to see not only the time frame, but you're also going to see the match number that you're in. So it's important that you understand what match you're in, because if you want to find out what happened, you're going to go to your log file and you're going to see, well, it said match whatever, okay? If your robot restarted during a match, that's going to be a new log file, okay? You're not going to see the match number on the second one. It only comes up when it first starts. Holy cow. There we go. Are we out of time? Is the next session?
I think people are just leaving early.
5 minutes? Okay. Well, we're going to get the condensed view then. This graph here shows you all of the statistics. Power usage is the primary one that we're looking at. On the right-hand side, these are groups. So you can see the power usage based on the number of amps that on the PDP. There's 40 amp slots, there's 20 amp slots, and there's some smaller ones. The event list, you're going to see everything, every message that the robot pops out or logs, that's going to show up in the event list. Okay.
There's one thing I want to bring up
Yep.
real quick is, this graph here of packet loss, I get a lot of this up at the field. The one section here where the packet loss is being shown, this is packet loss during this time slice. So a lot of times people will see this huge spike and say, oh, there's a problem with the field. And we'll go look at our FMS logs. Our FMS will gather all of the packets and tell us, they may have came later. It's just during the time slice when this thing looks at a small, narrow window, it says, I didn't see a packet come in. But later on, it does come in slower, and the FMS says everything's fine. So don't freak out.
Mouse over, you can see in the pot right there, in the orange there, you can see it. You can mouse over it, and it gives you different descriptions there.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Okay.
Dave, right here's the button right here. Right there. I didn't know what it was, and I was like, I pressed it, and my phone forgot the release of the ATP. Quickly on here, any of you guys use the Shuffleboard or SmartDashboards on your configurations? So the main point of this is for diagnostics, right? You can look at different things, tune your PIDs and stuff in here. This stuff's all in here. This is the old SmartDashboard, which is pretty much phased out. The new Shuffleboard has a lot of cool features in there now.
So when he's talking about the SmartDashboard and the Shuffleboard, everybody, the driver station, right? That's that little component on the bottom. And then sometimes it'll flip up an interface up on top. That is either going to be the lab view or the SmartDashboard or the Shuffleboard. That's what he's talking about here, okay? And you can select that from the driver station.
Right there. It'll be on your left side right there that's the default you can set to. So automatically when you fire up your driver station, automatically you'll flag that to come up. Very helpful stuff on here. And the Shuffleboard, we've been using it for a year now. Plan on using it very heavily. They've added some new features in here to rotate your camera view without remounting your camera. You can actually rotate it in here now. You can change your colors of your Boolean values on the Shuffleboard and stuff. You can change the color of the crosshair. And then on the camera, you can do all your configurations. So one thing that we get called on a lot of times is bandwidth sometimes, or utilization. We'll come and see what your camera's doing. If you're running 2 cameras and you're full out, no compression in that, and your frames per second's way up, you're going to suck up some bandwidth on it. We'll come see you to help you tweak that down.
Yeah, I would, honestly, on a camera, if you're using it for driver station view, you want the smallest resolution possible with the highest frame rate, okay? Because you want the lowest latency, and that's going to happen with the smallest file size. So if you can get away with 320 at 30 frames a second, your driver will probably appreciate that, so you can see what there is now versus what there was half a second ago.
Yep. And I've been running around the 320 a lot of times in 15 frames per second on there. With 2 cameras, I've never had an issue with our teams on there. We have a ton of stuff in this presentation, but then getting into troubleshooting, the RoboReal manual has a lot of stuff on here. You should start recognizing what your lights are, statuses on there on your RoboReal. So this kind of walks through the blinking and stuff on there, what's blinking, what's not, and what the status of it, if you're in safe mode or it's restarting. The FTAs use this quite often because when you're trying to get your robot connected to the field, this is what they're looking at. They're looking at the radio light status and they're looking at the RoboReal status. So you can tell what's going on as you're trying to connect to the field. E-stop red and solid on your driver station. So we won't go every detail on here, but is there any questions we can answer directly? Because we got slides on different things on troubleshooting stuff.
So are there RoboReal hardware versions to worry about? We got old ones from old robots, they're all
Nope,
the same?
they're all the same. They're locked.
They're locked. The firmware should be a minimum of 3,
Yeah,
as far as I know right now.
And they've been re-upped. They'll be around for another 3 years, I believe. So they'll be around for a while.
2021?
Another one, go ahead.
I heard up to 2021.
Yep, so, 3 more seasons.
Again, these are just some of the other stuff on here. Basically this is doing the light stuff on here. So if you get sticky faults and stuff, now you can go into the Phoenix Diagnostics and clear your sticky faults. Or you can write code to do it in there as well. We still got 10 minutes.
Oh, do we?
What time is it in?
Lunch starts at like 40.
So we're, okay, we got 4 minutes. And how about questions? Any other questions?
We'd love to answer questions, kind of drive through this. A lot of people use USB cameras, but there is still teams out there using the AXI Camera with the Ethernet on here, and this is the configuration on here. The utilities on there to set everything, the IP address and stuff like that if you don't have it set to DHCP.
Yeah.
Between the SmartDashboard and the Shuffleboard, when you guys
Shuffleboard.
Shuffleboard all the way.
Yep. Yep. The SmartDashboard, if it's around for another, in 2 years, I'd be surprised.
They haven't done any new development on it for 2 years. The Shuffleboard's taken over, and it's had a lot more. The widgets are phenomenal. And what we found through some of the beta stuff, not to steal thunder and that, it's creating stuff in the live window automatically through the code now. And it's got the graphical view where you can see your drivetrain turning, going straight, going forward and reverse. I mean, you got the graphs on there. I mean, the Smart Dashboard has some graphs in that, but nothing compares what's on there because you can go to the tab and look at all your network tables. So with the new, all the configuration on the Smart Dashboard, you can just basically create a camera server and just do automatic start capturing right away, and then you can tweak it right there in the dashboard, and it'll save them in your RoboReal. So the tips and practice, I'll let anyone speak on this, on the good practice stuff on here. And one thing we like to stress is keep up with the team updates. Make sure you don't get caught going to the regional with not doing any updates. It's going to slow you down getting through inspection, getting connected to the field. You'll have to call us if you don't have the stuff with you because there's no Wi-Fi, and usually you can create hotspots, but they don't want even that. To download the software, we usually carry it on our junk drives, but pay attention to that.
Well, I've already spoken on what have more than one driver station, have more than one programming station. Put your source code in GitHub, okay? Don't store it on one single machine.
Great advice.
Remove passwords from your driver station. Shut off firewall. There's a whole laundry list of things. If you have
The GitHub site should be on there.
Okay, so we maintain a list of good practices, and so does First, and it should be on your list here. So go ahead, and if you have any questions, get a hold of us. Let us know. Otherwise, you can get a hold of our GitHub site. We usually have sample code too, so if anybody wants to see, they don't know where to start. We once the season starts, once the software is locked down, we'll provide sample code for this year as well. Something that you guys can just take and deploy, change some CAN IDs, and be up and running. So.
Right. We can't post anything yet because of the beta stuff on it, because the visual code captures all that, and we don't want that out there. So as soon as the season starts, we'll put like basic drivetrain, single motor stuff out there so you can throw it in for arcade drive or not. Any other questions? I mean, Screensteps. If you don't know where Screensteps are for First, bookmark it. It's on our sheet. This will be posted up on the website as well. Go to that. There's code snippets. There's all the configuration, all the doc. It's getting better. We've gone through the iteration for the beta now, so hopefully a lot of that will be updated before it comes out on January 5th.
Communication, we have got a Slack channel that we monitor year-round. So if you guys want to get on that, you can ask questions to the CSAs, or a lot of the Minnesota teams, especially the ones that went to Worlds, they're all on there as well. And so if you even wanted to ask another team, our CSA Slack actually goes out to quite a few number of the veteran teams as well. So you can hop on there, you can ask a question, get a hold of one of us directly. Otherwise, we've got email, we've got everything for that matter. So, yeah.
From an inspector point of view, can I use the Slack channel to say, like, at a regional, just be like, hey, this team needs help, or would you guys prefer the Trello ticket?
That's fine. Whatever. If we need a Trello ticket, we'll open up one ourselves. Yeah. So.
What is your Slack channel?
Yeah. Let me get that to you.
It's on is it on here?
I didn't see it on there. Oh yeah, there it is at the bottom. Yep. So that's at the bottom of that handout.
First MN CSA. Well, any other questions? Thanks for attending session 3 here with us. You guys all have a great year in 2019.